So as you can recall, last time I uploaded a video of myself discussing the preface, di ba, of this book, which is by Hans Jonas. I chat. All right. So allow me to discuss chapter 1, at least the first part. Here, Jonas begins by reflecting on the transformation of human action in light of modern technology. Muna ang title kay The Altered Nature of Human Action. Traditionally, ethical systems were founded on the assumption that, quote, the human condition, determined by the nature of man and the nature of things, was given once for all, end quote. Meaning that the assumption back then was that the world was understood as stable, finite, and unchangeable by human intervention, right? It's a given, meaning um, it's just as it is. Okay. This understanding created a predictable moral landscape where human responsibility was narrowly circumscribed, limited by our seemingly minor impact on the natural world. In short, the world is just there, and we have no effect on the world, right? That was the assumption back then. However, Jonas contends that with the advent of modern technology, these premises no longer hold. The nature of human action has fundamentally changed, and as a result, our ethical frameworks must adapt to this new reality. Okay. In short, katong sa una nga mga ethical frameworks, they're no longer enough. To illustrate this shift, Jonas takes us back to antiquity. By the way, Jonas is also an expert in um, classic texts. Okay. So we have here the chorus from the Antigone of Sophocles as a point of comparison. Mano yung gigamit. No? The chorus celebrates the ingenuity and resilience of man, marveling at how he, quote, di ba, crosses the sea in the winter storm, end quote, and, quote, wears the earth away, di ba, through his labor and craft. In this depiction, humanity is lauded for its ability to conquer nature, ensnaring animals, say ensnaring ka ng mudakop, di ba? Ensnaring animals, taming beasts, and bending the elements to its will. But even in this triumph of man, there is an acknowledgement of limitation, right? Unsa man na? Quote, only against death, okay? Death na nga limitation. Only against death shall he call for aid in vain. End quote. For all his cleverness, man remains bound to nature's ultimate laws. This awestruck homage reflects a deep awareness of human finitude. No matter how far humanity extends its reach, it remains small, diba? Small by the measure of the elements, end quote, incapable of truly disturbing the cosmic balance. Wait. Wait mo ako internet. Okay. So this awestruck homage reflects a deep awareness of human finitude, diba? That we are gonna die, right? No matter how far humanity extends its reach, it remains small by the measure of the elements, incapable of truly disturbing the cosmic balance. Okay. The Earth, though plowed and tilled by human hands, is ageless and unwearied, according to Jonas, while the sea remains inexhaustible despite interference. So that's the assumption back then. In antiquity, human actions were seen as superficial and powerless to upset nature's appointed balance. End quote. Um, Human efforts were localized and temporary, incapable of altering the larger order of things. Jonas uses this contrast to show how radically different our present situation is, right? Because unlike the ancient world, where nature remained unaltered by human activity, modern technology has given us the power to make lasting and sometimes even irreversible changes. This shift fundamentally alters the ethical landscape. As Jonas puts it, quote, quote, new objects of action, end quote, and the qualitatively novel nature of certain of our actions, end quote, demand a rethinking of traditional ethics. No longer can we rely on the assumption that nature will heal itself or remain undisturbed by our actions. In this new era, our responsibility extends beyond the intra-human realm. In fact, it's not just local, right? The effects of our actions, human responsibility, encompasses the entire biosphere, right? Encompasses the natural world itself. Jonas further elaborates on this ancient conception of human life by discussing the man-made island of the city. That's the title of the section. The city, in classical thought, represented a human enclave, quote, meant to enclose and not to expand, end quote. It was within this artificial space that human life unfolded. And it was here that all traditional ethics took root, earning city. Human responsibility was confined to the social realm and our relationships with one another and the laws of the city. Nature, by contrast, was not seen as an object of human responsibility, right? What paki sa nature back then? As Jonas writes, quote, nature was not an object of human responsibility. She, taking care of herself, and with some coaxing and worrying, also of man, end quote. Ethics in this framework was purely an intra-human affair. In short, um, ethics here um, involves only humans. We need not look at nature when we talk about ethics back then. Cleverness and technique or techne is all that we do to nature. Okay, cleverness. In short, we try to master nature instead of treating it ethically. That was back then. It was not a moral concern, right? This distinction between nature and the social world, however, is, according to Jonas, no longer tenable because with modern technology, human actions now reach far beyond the walls of the city into the very fabric of nature itself. As Jonas argues, the immunity of the whole, untroubled in its depth by the importunities of man, end quote, can no longer be assumed. He said, the quote, basic terms of our being, end quote, are no longer insulated from human intervention. We have the power to alter the balance of the natural world in profound ways. In short, the effects of human action to the cosmos is already drastic to the point that um, we have to take responsibility. The critique of Jonas on traditional ethics is grounded in this recognition of modern technology's unprecedented reach. The inconstancy of human fortunes that once assured the constancy of the human condition no longer applies. Our actions now have the potential to alter the very conditions of life on Earth, and this demands a new ethical framework, one that takes into account not only our responsibilities to one another, but also to the planet itself. Yeah. So we're now in the second section of the same chapter, chapter 1. Jonas emphasizes that in previous eras, interactions with a non-human world were, quote, ethically neutral. Di ba? Ganyan na. Ethically neutral. The world has no moral value to us back then because um, they impinged and only marginally on nature's self-sustaining processes and thus did not threaten the natural order in a permanent way. Human action, except in fields like um, medicine, did not raise ethical concerns because technology's reach was limited. The focus was on necessity, producing tools or goods to satisfy human needs without broader considerations. This makes sense when you think about early human technologies like farming tools or animal husbandry. These had little impact on the planet's larger ecosystems. Human mastery over nature was seen as a given, but was not understood to have catastrophic potential. Jonas emphasizes that traditional ethics, quote, belonged to the direct dealing of man with man, end quote, which means, uh, which made these systems fundamentally anthropocentric. What do you mean by anthropocentric? Anthropos meaning man, centric meaning centered. So, centered on man. All of traditional ethics is centered on man instead of on nature. We do not consider nature as a primary consideration in traditional ethics. That's what anthropocentric means. So, classical moral principles such as, quote, love the neighbor as thyself, di ba? Or do unto others as you would have them do unto you, reflected a world where ethical decisions were confined to immediate and local relationships. These maxims presupposed that human beings existed in a relatively stable, unchanging natural environment where ethics dealt with the here and the now. In these systems, Jonas says, quote, the effective range of action was small. The time span of foresight, goal setting, and accountability was short. Okay? Meaning that individuals back then focused on actions whose effects were directly observable within their own lifetimes. A farmer might be concerned with how his actions affected his community, but he would not consider the long-term environmental degradation of the land. That does not appear in his set of concerns, right? In this context, ethics was largely about interactions in real time based on observable outcomes within close proximity. However, this proximity between action and consequence no longer holds in today's world. Diba? Due to modern technology, we entered a new era in which human actions can have far-reaching and often irreversible effects on the environment and future generations. Jonas points out that modern technology has, quote, introduced actions of such a novel scale, objects, and consequences that the framework of former ethics can no longer contain them. The effects of technological advancements, think of climate change, nuclear energy, or genetic engineering, reach far beyond the immediate present, involving global and intergenerational impacts. This marks a stark contrast with the past when actions were local and the consequences were relatively limited.